New England fans have basically said, all right, Bill, we are moving on. This is what Tom Brady had to say about Bill Belichick on his Let's Go podcast, hosted by
Jim Gray,
who asks incredible sponsored questions.
Yes, he does.
And it sounds like,
well, Tom, I don't know if you've had lunch yet today, but if you haven't, Golden Corral's buffet is actually only $10.99 this week. So, maybe you throw for 1,099 yards next week if you go to Golden Corral this week for $10.99.
And also, Tom, what are your thoughts on?
And what do you think about Bill Belichick this week?
And this is what Tom Brady had to say.
He's still the same coach. He's doing the same things. He's still coaching the same way. So how do you think he's dealing with this mentally? How do you think that he is handling this
Tom looks
when
good,
everything that he's about is the exact
his best
opposite?
version?
I think the results are different from what they've been from, but I know that he's still got the same, work ethic. He's got the same coaching style. And, I think the thing that as I watch not only the Patriots, but a lot of things, football's a hard sport. It was very different when I was in there because I could control a lot of the outcome. When I'm sitting here watching from afar, I realize, God, there's a lot of variables. There's a lot of things that need to go right in order to have team success. And I was a part of a lot of those teams. And, I didn't take any of those things for granted. I needed a great defense. I needed a great kicker.
Vinny.
Obviously, I needed a great coach. I needed great receivers and a great O-line. If I was going to be successful as a player, I needed all those things. And I was fortunate to have a lot of those things over a long period of time. The teams that lose, they're putting a lot into it. The teams that win, they're putting a lot into it. It's a relentless sport, and there's nothing is given to you. It's all hard. Losing is hard. Winning is hard. To be in it year in and year out is hard. To lose and have a horrible season is very hard.
That's from Let's Go on Sirius XM, the Mad Dog Sports radio channel, I do believe, more specifically. But I appreciate the fact that Tom's like, now that I'm watching these games, wow, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some guys really good in some places, and then their coaches are just putting them in terrible positions. Then you see some teams that's good, and then the offensive line is horrendous. Then you get a team that's in a situation, they miss a kick. It never happened to me. I remember the ball always going through the uprights. I remember always being put in a position to succeed. I remember my offensive line always making things happen. When the defense needs to get a stop, even on the goal line, when Russell Wilson is under center and Marshawn Lynch has been down, they need to make it happen. It's like I feel like Tom is getting a chance now to look back on how fortunate and how lucky he was for that dynastic run. Do you agree whenever you hear him talk about that?
100%. He's right. I mean, the good teams and the worst team, they put in the same amount of effort, the same amount of work. You've been on bad teams, you've been on good teams. What's the difference? It isn't very much. It's this much, and that's what people don't realize. And obviously, he's having the chance to see that now as a fan. He understood it as he was going through it as a player, but I think now he's.
I don't think he understood it. I think he just
maybe not. You're right.
I do this. Yeah. I show up. Yeah. We win
For sure.
I do
just
this.
Expected.
I show up. We win.
Yeah.
Variables.
I do my job. We show up. We win. Now he's watching these games like, why don't they just
Why aren't they winning?
just win?
Yeah.
He owns the Raiders now.
Great.
He owns the Raiders now, and obviously they get a big-time win over the Packers. But I can't wait for him to watch the Raiders and just be, why aren't these guys just winning? Like, what is going on? For 20 years, we were able to just, you do this, you do that, then you win. Now, Bill Belichick was certainly a part of that, where he's talking about his work ethic and how much he's in it. I think a lot of people around Bill are potentially hoping that Bill will experience what Tom has experienced. Like, hey, Bill, why don't you step away from the game a little bit, get a little different perspective on it, and go like, oh, I beat the game. I did really good. There's nothing more for me to do. Although I feel like Bill thinks he's got to build one more championship team. He was asked about the quarterback situation in his press conference, and we are in prime time Bill Belichick press conference season. Here's what he had to say about the change of quarterback.
Will Mac Jones be starting?
Yeah, we're not making any changes.
What were you able to accomplish yesterday?
Work on some of the things we think will help us in the game, help us play better football.
What were you able to accomplish? We worked on some things I think will make us better play football. Next question. Why Mac Jones? Just answered it. Okay, didn't I? I'm not doing the song and dance the entire time. As a Patriots fan, you hear Mac starting again. What is your thoughts?
Love it, but I want to go 1-16. So I'm glad we're not making changes because we are on the road to a top 3 pick. Let's stay on that road. Let's stay the course. To your point, I do think that both of them, Brady and Belichick, probably will look back and not really understand how they did it. I don't know if they
I think so
even
too.
know.
I think they will think to themselves. Yeah, they'll probably drink. What does Tom drink? Like some
Tequila.
avocado. Oh, he drinks tequila.
He's a tequila guy. Just from the boat parade. That's what he said. He was.
So when he's winning Super Bowls, he'll drink tequila.
Right.
We assume. I don't know if you saw. Seems like his face is settled in.
Yeah.
Right? Hasn't it?
Looks great.
He does. He looks phenomenal.
Glowing.
That was not Bill.
Not Bill,
That's
no.
Bill.
He also
Belichick.
looks phenomenal.
I don't know. Bill seems to
Little
really.
stressed.
Football seems to be really wearing. Tom looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
There was a couple weeks ago where people were starting to say some things about how Tom looked and everything like that. Would like to let Tom know as of October 11th when you look incredible, Tom.
It's great.
Boy,
You look
Tom,
really, really good, Tom.
congrats.
But do you think there's going to come a time where he's having his little avocado juice that he just squeezed into a cup, and Bill Belichick's probably drinking, I don't know, a whole bottle of whiskey by the time he's done with this entire thing, and they start chit-chatting about how lucky they've been, how fortunate they were, the different wins that kind of came out of nowhere? How about when Vinatieri made that 40-yarder in the middle of a blizzard where physics tells us still they have no idea how it made it? It's like that type of thing I hope they have a chance to really look back and reminisce on. But right now, Bill Belichick's in the middle is still trying to create that thing. Again, will they ever be able to do something like that in New England?
Yeah, once Bill hangs it up, obviously, but
Whoa.
once he hang it up, like you said, once he's out of the thick of it. But like Tom talked about, like when he's from the outside looking in, you forget about all the different variables. And we obviously talk about sports every day, everyone does. But like it's humans in there. Like you talk about it in the trenches. Aaron talks about it from the quarterback position. You talk about the teams. I talk about it from the secondary. Like you can call whatever, you can put that work in, but everybody got to go out there and execute every play. And that 2 to 4 seconds is gonna make the difference every game. And it's tough. But when you have a guy like Tom who can control so much, you can control the protectors, you can control where I throw to, the coverages, how you practice. What's the culture in the locker room? Guys showing up late, not showing up late. Like all those different things, and it becomes habit. So they'll appreciate it when it's all.
You think Bill will be able to build one up again?
Not in New England. Because I don't think they'll ever lose enough to get another quarterback. Like they got lucky with Tom.
This is like the Pittsburgh Steelers situation as well. Now, granted, obviously, Pittsburgh Steelers didn't have the dynasty that the New England Patriots had for 2 decades. And everybody that was in the league, I think, was so baffled how these guys have continued to just win games and how they continue to get lucky when it came to health and injury. Like people would get hurt on every team. But whenever key positions get hurt, then it's like season completely off the rails. We had it this year, but then we lost said guy here, and we had no chance. For some reason, the Patriots were able to just kind of withstand that for 2 decades. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs, I guess, are doing the same damn thing. How many straight consecutive hosted AFC Championship games or something like that?
Every single year.
Yeah, it's like 5 straight AFC Championship hosting it.
Since Mahomes has started. The first one he hosted was the last one with Brady in the past.
And they've won 2 Super Bowls, and they've had a battle with injuries with Patrick and Travis, and they've had lost players. They lose the best wide receiver in all of football. We're in the middle kind of watching it happen here in Kansas City, so I guess it is possible again. But if you're just meddling at like 13, 14 draft pick, it's going to be hard to get, I guess, the weapon changer that you're going to need to change the entire program.
Bingo, and that's why I want to be terrible. And like Debo just said,
would you go through another 12 weeks of your team just being absolutely garbage?
Without question, I would. Without question, I would lose 34-0 every single Sunday for the rest of the year if that meant we got Drake May come April, because that is the only way to be in it. Like we're talking about teams who are in it. Brady and Mahomes are the 2 dynasties. They're 2 of the best quarterbacks to ever play. Like you can't go with a guy who isn't not just good, like exceptional. Like look at Josh Allen, Lamar, Burrow, Mahomes. That's just one.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy.
Hurts, Purdy on the other side. But even just to get to a conference championship
AFC
game,
you're saying,
yeah, it's like you have to beat all these guys. And like I like Mac Jones. 3 weeks ago, I was a Mac Jones believer, and I still think he could be good. But if you were to, I don't think he'll ever be a Josh Allen or a Mahomes or one of those guys who is at the top of
what
the
did
league.
Dan Orlovsky say about Mac Jones?
He said if you put him in San Francisco right now, he is Brock Purdy.
He played. No, he didn't say. He
said maybe
he played like
he's
that.
like Purdy.
Yeah.
Why you put words in my mouth?
Well, he said he'd play like him. Brock Purdy is currently, the odds-on favorite to win the MVP in a lot of places. So if he were to play like him, he would be the MVP favorite right now.
But now, I think what Dan was trying to say is Bill O'Brien is not Kyle Shanahan, and the weapons that the Patriots have are not what the Niners have.
Fair.
So he was trying to point out that what Mac Jones is going through is vastly different than what Brock Purdy's going through. If you give Mac Jones the setup that Brock Purdy has, he'd be playing like that, is what he said.
Right.
So then he calls us. He goes, why you put words in my mouth? It was like, what did you say? He said, I said he'd be playing like that. Like,
That is.
Are you saying he's playing
At a
like,
potential
no,
MVP
I
level.
never said he's better than Brock. I just said he'd be playing like that. I'm like, Dan, I don't know if you're making your case better or worse right now, but the decision-making that Brock Purdy does is his best trait, I think. Now, obviously, having the weapons that can get open and having Shanahan do his thing is obviously a weapon, but Brock Purdy is like this. He's not getting paid anything, so the salary cap can do whatever they can do. And then the decision-making, I think, is the most impressive part of AQ Shipley.
I think it's the anticipation. I think that's the one thing that you see from him is he knows where the ball's supposed to go pre-snap. So he can just sit there, smooth, get back to his drop, put the ball in a spot and let those guys go get it. The scheme helps, obviously, right? Like they can stick with the run game. He's never
How come everybody doesn't just do that scheme?
Because you have to have it. And that's the other thing we got to talk about with
just
Bill.
do that scheme.
Need the guy.
Let's do that.
And just do what the Niners are doing.
And that's the other thing, right? Like we talk about this. So whenever I played and you're in a pass-happy offense, right? You spend the majority of your time working on pass plays and pass protection and all this stuff. They spend 90% of their practice working that zone scheme, and that is the only way you can get good at it. And you have to do it physical, like physical practices in season, which a lot of teams don't want to commit to, right? So they have to buy in completely to that whole thing. They do it. It continues to work, and they got a quarterback now that's
dealing,
lighting it up, lighting it up.
And he
practice too. That's a good point. That's a big part of the whole dynasty thing too. We heard about Andy Reid, how he runs practices and training camps, and like those Patriot practices were hard too. Obviously, when Brady's there, we condition after every practice.
Hell yeah,
everybody can't run that scheme. You heard George Kittle when he came on and talked about him being in it 7 years and having great job by John Lynch as well. Finding those type of players that can handle all those moving parts, all those different plays. Hey, Kyle Shanahan, you're putting in 7, 8 plays that we haven't even ran.
He said on Saturday and Sunday.
Everybody can't do that. Everybody it's certain teams, or you playing a lot of young quarterbacks are playing. You can't do that with young quarterbacks. So it's a lot that goes into that shit.
Brock Purdy, very young, able to handle it all, which is another part of the whole like that thing that Dan Orlovsky said, where it's like, come on, Dano. Although we appreciate Dano.
You know who would kind of, I mean, just thinking about it now, maybe not Mac, feels like Gardner Minshew would almost be unbelievable in the 49ers scheme as well.
We're not trying to get Gardner anywhere but the Indianapolis Colts.
That's true.
Hey, we need him for the next 4 to 8 weeks.
But,
and honestly, I think there's a chance he goes undefeated the next 8 weeks.
Then what?
Certainly possible.
You start Minshew in the playoffs, or do you go back to AO?
Oh yeah, if he goes 8-0.
Yeah, we're going Minshew mania, pal. We're running wild all over everything.
For sure.
He's putting balls right.
Oh yeah.
Right. Right. That's what Gardner Minshew's doing right now. Everybody needs to know that. We watched it live. It makes no sense because he's not that large.
Kind of a little fellow.
Physical stature. So he goes into that huddle. He kind of disappears in there. And then all of a sudden they walk out and you just see the moxie just radiating from within. It's like the football gods cast sundown on his beautiful frame and his mullet and his hair going out. And he just is in complete control, has zero worries at all. And then he'll have somebody in his face, can't see it, and he bends a football around a guy right there.
Yeah.
I love this Minshew mania.
So good.